PSA meeting to order. We do have a quorum. We'll start off with public address. If anybody would like to come up and speak, please come forward, state your name and address. You have 5 minutes. See nobody here, we'll move on. Okay. For consent items, it would be approved minutes for the meeting of August the 5th and October the 15th. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Thank you. All right, move on to the financial report.
Financial report, operating cash is $3,109,553. Capital improvements, $714,078. Customer deposits, $104,010 for a total of $3,927,641. Any questions from anybody?
Nope.
Okay. Let's go back.
Okay, the director's report, okay.
Next item on this director's report, the only thing I have for us tonight is, I'd just like to pass along that Reiner Water Project is complete, except for, closing out the wells in Reiner. That'll get started, as soon as I get direction from the Virginia Department of Health, how they want us to do that. But water is flowing to Reiner. All of our controls are working to fill the tanks automatically. That's the last thing we were waiting on. That got taken care of a week and a half or so ago, and everything's working good.
So when you close the tanks, like, do they come and look at them after they're closed to make sure they're closed the right way? Or I've never experienced any of that, like.
They'll give us direction on how to close those wells, and usually you have to hire a licensed well contractor to do that. And then there's a form that they fill out, and send in to the health department to let them know that they've been shut off right, taken out of service. They're already out of service and they've already been taken off the books. It's just that
But we still own.
we still own the property, and once all that's done and they tell us what we need to do with that, then we'll proceed with surplus in the property. So
Learn something new every day.
probably
Chuck-
will be,
Oh, sorry.
probably will be into next year, first of next year,
Wow.
before we get all that wrapped up completely.
So are new customers able to connect now?
Yes.
In Reiner?
Yes.
Have we marketed that? Is there like,
We've
nice.
already hooked up some. We've already
That's
had
great.
some that's cooked up. So yeah, I don't know the exact number. Probably close to a dozen, I think. So yeah, they can hook up.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, we're waiting on her to ask me.
Oh, Brush Mountain update.
Well, we finally got something from the town today. There was 6 tasks that CHA is proposed to do, for a total of just to get hydraulic modeling, development of water line alignment, right-of-way permitting evaluation, the opinion of probable project cost, and the development of a PER. We're a total of $86,000, but that does not include any or of the improvements that they would ask for on their system.
Okay. And like, can you send us a copy of what
Sure.
you're talking about?
Yes,
Okay.
But they haven't said no.
they haven't said no, but, and once all this is done, then it goes before, and it goes through the health department, it goes back to the town and to the town council, and they will say yay or nay whether they want to proceed.
Okay, so the idea is that we would pay the $86,000 to get the study done, and they would pick the group to do it, right?
CHA is the one that they've already
Okay,
picked
and
CHA
they,
to do it.
but but we have to pay the 86,000. So that, the next question is, have we found any monies to cover that?
No.
Okay.
Did the town council have to approve anything to get us to this point?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
They didn't approve anything. They were, Mark Fernell talked with them about it, and they did not say yes or no, as you guys said. They said we need to do certain things, and that's the first one.
Yeah, it was at a work session, and it was sort of like a consensus thing for them to get information, but they didn't officially vote on it. Okay.
So what do we have to do to create the $86,000? What options do we have to find $86,000 or not?
I was looking for grant money, but
Grant money probably will be, I mean, but it's gonna be in the spring before
Right.
that comes back around again. It's already closed for,
remind us where that comes from. Is that the federal level?
yes.
Okay.
Would it potentially cover the whole cost?
I don't think so. No, the whole cost is gonna be somewhere between,
I mean, the $86,000 part.
oh, I don't know. I couldn't say for sure if that would
Anything
cover
would
the whole.
help, though.
Yeah.
But if
lot
we
of
had to find other money to bring it up to 86,000,
A lot of the grants for studies are for low-income
Yeah.
properties.
but it's also for water quality. And this definitely would qualify, you would think.
Yeah.
Do they not approve higher income, even if the water quality is bad? Higher income households?
I don't know the answer to that.
I don't either.
But we looked for grants and we asked the regional commission because the regional commission, that's one of their areas of expertise, and they were not aware of any that would cover that project.
Have we heard anything back from Senator Warner's office at all about what they were supposed to be looking for?
I have not.
Okay, I'll do that again. Okay, well, that's good because, of course, before I came over, I got the little text message about getting an update, so that's good to know. Thank you.
But assuming that any federal grant wouldn't cover the total amount, where could we possibly come up with the rest?
We just have to check in to see what's in the budget, what the budget would allow.
Do we have any idea what that might be? Could it cover the whole 86,000?
What, the grant?
The budget, our budget.
Oh,
Because it would have to come out of PSA, not the county.
right, it would have to come out of the PSA's budget.
Yeah, and
Right.
that's, yeah.
And is there anything that we could appropriate, any monies that we could appropriate for?
You could choose to use money that you have, but the money that you have is for current. You just need to be careful because the reserves that the PSA has on hand are to maintain the system that you currently have, not to expand the system. And I think you just need to be careful about what you use that money for.
But the PSA also must have a goal of making sure our residents have good water. No?
I think that's the PSA board's decision, not really a staff decision.
But does the PSA have that as a goal? Or as part of their mission? To make sure that Montgomery County residents have satisfactory water?
I don't know anything, but I'm gonna say no, they don't.
Yeah. I mean,
I've never heard of it.
it just seems like we should, but whose job is it to provide, to make sure that residents have good water?
Well, we do try to make sure citizens have good water, but when you have a limited funds, you can only do so much.
The system has
and
to
that-
be able to support itself, so I think that is part of the overall plan that Chuck's I don't want to steal your stuff here, but you,
There is,
overall-
there is Hurt Profit is in the process of doing a study to see what we need to do as far as fixing what we have, maintaining what we have, or expanding if we can. But just to give you an idea, if this thing were to, if we had the 12 to $15 million it would take to build this, we're looking at $1 million debt service added to what we already have yearly to pay this back. And the rates would have to go up so high in order to cover that. There's not enough up there, in my opinion, to say, okay, these people can support that debt service. And I don't think there's enough connections up there for that to happen.
I think that's very well said, Chuck. You want to be able to serve the citizens as best you possibly can, but you also have to think about it from the perspective of the PSA has to be, it's a business, and our customers are citizens, and so the impact on customers has to be measured against the possible good. And we've looked at one point, we looked at what kind of rate increase that would be for the citizen that's already connected to the PSA, and that's what they're using for their water and sewer, and the cost is substantial. And it would have to be borne by all of the existing PSA customers.
Because
I think that's the biggest rub in the situation, because you want to be able to serve the citizens, but you also have to be able to sustain the business.
Yeah, so Detroit, am I saying that? No, or Flint, right? The federal government mandated that they fix their water. I don't know what the right terminology is. The residents on Brush Mountain have good, is this true? Have good enough water as far as all regulations are concerned?
Had you got what?
Do the residents on Brush Mountain have good enough water, meet the water requirements for residents?
And I think
We
it's
don't-
important to point out the situation in Flint was due to the municipal infrastructure that
Right.
already existed.
Right.
And so the infrastructure existed, people were connected, that was their source of water. And so that's why the federal government stepped in that situation, and this is very dissimilar to that.
Well, the biggest thing on that is Flint was locality's responsibility, and up there is private wells. So we don't have the authority to go up there and check their water.
Right, they have to check it themselves. And it depends on where the person is located. If their well has failed, it's a number of circumstances, whether on any given day they can say they have good or bad water.
So the federal and state government doesn't have any requirements for wells, systems, quality of water?
There are
Department
people in
of Health.
Montgomery County that don't have running water in their homes.
I can understand that. And
So-
that's okay,
It's morally, ethically, no.
right? But there's no law that says we have to step in.
No, I wouldn't
Yeah.
think so.
And so there's no law that says that we have to step in for this.
No.
if a person wants to have a new well, the health department has to approve that well and inspect the wells. I don't know what this situation is after a person has a private well.
Yeah, after it's approved, then they just have to be in charge of checking their water, is my
The
understanding.
resident is
Yeah,
just
yeah.
responsible. So we would never be responsible. So, so it sounds like we can go get federal grants for the 86,000, but can we even remotely get federal grants or state grants or any kind of grants for the 15 million?
Right, that's the question.
Mary and I have been talking to DC, and we haven't
We're
gotten
still
nothing back from them.
So before we proceed with the 86,000, you guys kind of make some progress, I suppose.
Well, the biggest thing is, I mean, it's up to this board, but the biggest thing is, if we spend $86,000 on that, and I'm not being mean when I say this, but we don't have money to cover it when they do give us answer on it. We don't have the money.
And the other big thing is to think about, like, we're gonna do a study about where to put water and, I guess, sewer eventually, but, you know, you don't, I mean, we don't have money to do that either.
Nope.
I mean, it's sort of a big,
So why proceed?
That's up to this board.
Why are we proceeding then?
well, I'm advocating for the people because they're in my district, and I wanted to see if we could do anything that would not be a cost to the PSA, but if we could find monies to do it. So my idea was to proceed to bring them that information, because I think they understand how expensive it would be. But they look at other places in the county. The big problem that keeps resurfacing over and over is how come Reiner has it and we don't?
Because Reiner,
I mean, it keeps popping up.
yeah, but that's a whole different ballgame.
I know.
Because Reiner was even started before I got here.
I know, because the PSA was acting as a developer at that time,
And
and we're
most-
not a developer now.
Right, and most, I mean, well, some of the developers put in some of that system too.
I mean, a perfect example is prices for new developments. Those developers spent $1 million or whatever. But the point is do we have any inkling that the federal or state government would ever cover the $15 million? Has anybody gotten ever an inkling? Okay, so if that can't happen, why are we even spending any more time and energy on this?
Well, I mean, we are, like I said, Mary and I are talking to DC, and my concern is, and I'm not talking about Brush Mountain, I'm gonna talk about anything. But if we get other people involved, say, could you go check these wells? Could you do this? They could condemn the wells, and we don't need that.
We don't want that, for sure.
That's why we are trying to do what we can do to get money to fix it. I do want to help them.
So when is the current debt paid off or paid down to the point where we could borrow again?
Long time.
Several years.
Is it set up on 20 years?
It's longer than that, isn't
Do
it?
you know,
We'll have
Angie?
to look at that. I don't know off
Remember
the
the
top
number
of
off
my
my
head.
head, but it's pretty good. It's quite a number of years.
See, another added factor to this whole thing is one of the reasons Blacksburg was interested is because of the Toms Creek Basin, and they're looking at the future development there, and they were looking at that sort of like, could something happen that way? So they were sort of a little bit interested in that,
But our part of the whole thing for Brush Mountain would cost $15 million.
that was the estimate.
That's the engineer's estimate, yes.
So how far can we go without creating interest for the health department or whoever to start inspecting wells and shutting them down? I mean, we'd hate to even remotely get close to that limit.
Yeah,
So
because at one time it did happen in Reiner.
can Hurt and Profit tell us, give us advice, or anybody else give us advice? I'd hate for you guys to do some work when, the next thing is that some kind of people are gonna come inspect.
Well, it sounds like if we can't find a source of $86,000 in grant funding, we've stopped anyways. So it sounds like that's all that needs to happen right now.
And that can't happen till the springtime, it looks like.
So it sounds like we're paused until we find $86,000. And then we would need to make a decision on whether or not we want to proceed, knowing that $15 million is not going to drop out of the sky either. If we have a hard time finding 86, it's going to be real hard to find 15 mil.
I know that before I got on the board in eastern Montgomery County, the reason water was brought down there was because the spring water that was being used was not healthy, or whatever you want to call it. And that was a long time ago, and they brought the water down there, but that's basically all I know.
And the biggest thing about PSA is, and I know Chuck, his staff wants to grow, but it's kind of hard to grow when you just got X amount of funding to deal with.
And another thing, even if you made the Brush Mountain a separate district, I think there's some kind of thing you can do for utilities, but Marty's not here to ask. Then those people, how would they afford that?
Right, right.
You know, even if they were a separate district and we weren't going to charge the PSA customers, that's like a big cost.
Yeah, there's no way
Yeah,
that the people
so-
could afford that. I mean, the $1 million houses up there probably could, but, you know, there aren't that many of those either. And it's not like they're chomping at the bit and saying, I'm willing to pay $100,000, $200,000 just to get, yeah.
Well, we figured up one time, Chuck did, what it would cost each house, and it was
Way up.
way up there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was over, it was 6 figures, well up into that.
But your work to try to find the federal grants will not spark any attention for those wells to be
No,
Okay.
this is coming
Good.
out of DC.
good. So,
Okay, well, I'll give them that update.
Right.
Thank you.
But we haven't forgot them.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
The bottom,
Ain't got no names on there.
authority member report, right there. Right there.
It ain't no names on there.
Nothing come up. Let's see.
All right,
Take into account.
Yeah, and I know we're set up on 20 years.
all right, now we'll go to the
Schools, it's 20 years. so-
authority members' report. Member Steve,
No report.
member Bone,
no report.
no report. Secretary Biggs,
No report.
member Demont,
No report.
member Graskin.
No report, but a quick question. Chuck, I don't know if you all fielded any calls from folks out on Price's Fork about high pressures today? No, okay. I saw grumblings on the social media about people's water heaters popping off. But I don't know. Don't know if it actually had anything to do with the water pressure coming from their service or if that was a inside the house issue.
Right. I didn't,
Okay.
I haven't heard of any.
Cool, thank you.
Yes, sir.
And the chair has no report.
I'm good, I'm good.
Okay. With that being said, meeting be adjourned.